What a great room. Give yourselves a hand. This happens to be the peak of the spring angel investing season. So angel investing has a fall and a spring season. April is the peak of the spring, and October probably the peak of the fall. And by peak, I mean, boy, did we have some great companies come through screen. Boy, did we see some great deals just get done. And we're just riding really high right now. Part of that is because the VCs all went home with their tails between their legs. Let's give it up for the VCs. They're far more sensitive to market conditions than angels. And as a result, the funds that they're raising are slower and lower. And the funds that they're disbursing are slow to the point of none. That creates a problem for the innovation economy, and a problem that plays very well into the angel class. So today's presentations, we're just raising the bar every April, and we've got some April returnees today, as you can see in our updates. I'm really, really happy that we're all together, and I want to find seats for everybody. So can we pull these chairs out, and JP won't have to just stand around and. Okay, great. We're going to keep it to 90 minutes. We got a late start, but we've got a great program lined up with LightSpeed, decimal code, some returning previews, and some returning updates. I'll save my comments for the end. I want to I'm just so grateful for this room. So thank you. When did I first meet LightSpeed? It was through the Centropolis Accelerator. Is that right, Daniel?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So Centropolis, the Lawrence Tech University accelerator up in Southfield, specializes in something that very few accelerators specialize in, which is hardware. Hardware is hard. Manufacturing technology tends to be capital intensive. So what you see with the risk-averse investors, they don't go there very often. And Centropolis loves that. And they are having a meeting next week of their inaugural manufacturing angel group. It is basically a direct lift of this group because the folks at Centropolis were so pleased with our progress that they decided to flatter us with an invitation. And Daniel, I hope you get a chance to pitch to them as well. Daniel Shirky, I'm going to give you 5 minutes to give us a preview of what you're doing at LightSpeed Concepts. Daniel, your time begins now.
All right, thank you, David. Appreciate it. Thanks for the time today. Good to see you all. And start with a short 10-question survey since I only have 5 minutes. One question. All right, so the metal casting industry is $44 billion in the U.S. and over $200 billion globally. So if they could find ways to have higher strength and lighter castings, do we think they'd probably want to do that? Yeah, they probably would. Well, that's what LightSpeed's mission is for. Is we are transforming the metal casting industry in the U.S. first and then globally for lightweight, innovative castings. You think about EVs; they have the heavy battery packs. They got to find ways to make those brake calipers lighter so that the overall efficiency of vehicles doesn't go down. So there's all kinds of lightweighting needs in automotive, aerospace, in the seas, all over the place. So that's our mission. How do we do that? We do it with 3D printers. So traditional sand casting is the most common metal casting method there is, and the lowest energy way to get from metal ore to a metal component. So metal casting, again, is huge. With 3D sand printers, we can print the molds that you pour the metal into, and you can make shapes that before were impossible. You can make very thin-walled components, which allows them to be lighter and also stronger. And this isn't necessarily a new concept. There's companies that have been doing this for a while. There's 2 German companies that have done this for a couple decades, actually. One is X1. They were bought by Desktop Metal, a SPAC you may have heard of. They were bought for $575 million 2 years ago. So that's what we're going up against. Why? Because their machines are slow, they're expensive, and they have environmental challenges. So they're a big player. They just got bought for $500 million. But our technology, we've developed a proprietary binder that we are printing out of print heads onto the sand, building these things layer by layer, and we're faster, more productive, we're lower cost, and we have no environmental issues that they have. And so, and they're concerned about us, which is what we like. So we're coming after them. A couple of customer stories in the last 2.5 minutes. Customer stories. So the largest rail car manufacturer in the United States, they currently 3D print molds and cores. Cores are the internal cavities of castings. But when they 3D print these currently, it takes them hours of post-processing manual labor. So without getting into the details, they have to use brushes and high-pressure hoses to clean off these molds before they can be used. Very labor-intensive, hard to do it right, lots of defects. And so with our process, when you 3D print the mold for casting, it comes out of the machine ready to use. You don't have those hours. It requires humans to be trained to not make mistakes with those hours of processing. So the largest U.S. railcar manufacturer loves us. A Fortune 10 tech company has bought samples and prototypes from us. I can't tell you who it is, but they've contracted with us to make phone case shapes out of aluminum, that they're trying to cast aluminum with special anodizing. Currently, they take huge aluminum billets and they machine out of everything. And I can't tell you who it is, but they're a big Fortune 10 tech company. So we have a PO from them. And then our first machine is in Jackson right now at our production facility. It's going to a Minnesota foundry next month. And they're a ductile iron foundry. They specialize in medium volume production, innovative designs that are lightweight and strong, and they want to go even thinner. They want to go to very thin walled products, and our technology allows them to do that. So what does the future look like for us? Well, we're going to transform the industry, the $200 billion metal casting industry, so we can have lighter, stronger castings. And when I come back in 6 months or whatever, we will have sold $1 million worth of machines. That's 2 machines that we have in Jackson right now. So in 6 months, I'll come back and tell you about the $1 million of revenue we have. And every machine we sell, we have projected $100,000 of recurring revenue because we have the proprietary binder. So every machine we sell for about $600,000, $100K of revenue recurring per year. So if you want to transform the metal casting industry with us and print money with that recurring revenue, let me know. Thank you.
Whoops. We have a virtual. There it is. Nope, there it isn't. Oh, geez. I had it just a moment ago. I apologize.
Couple seats up front if anyone wants to move here too.
There it is.
Oh, right up front. Oh, I got it.
Really enable us to tackle these efforts mostly through technical development.
So I first met Decimal Code through an accelerator in Chicago at the Booth School. And they were working with researchers from medical schools all across the country, including in Ann Arbor, where a couple of anesthesiologists hooked up with the Booth School to develop a way of doing automated medical billing coding and processing returns from insurance. I had no idea until I heard this presentation just what a big problem that is. Here's Joey Pinella to tell us more.
Hey everyone, my name is Joey Pinella. I am the co-founder and CEO of Decimal Code, an automated CPT coding startup that helps providers capture underbilled revenue. Now, what's the problem in the medical billing space today? Essentially, the way it works is that in, say, the case of a surgery, you'll have the surgeon themselves responsible for performing the activities and then writing a text note of what happens during the procedure. That text note then shows up on the desk of a medical biller alongside some clinical documentation. And from there, it's the medical biller's responsibility to flip through a booklet of over 10,000 CPT codes and select the correct CPT code that equates to the proper reimbursement payment for insurance. Now, a number of issues here, but really it boils down to, on the front end, due to the complex and disjointed nature of this process, workforces are really constrained as it's a highly manual effort, and this highly manual effort results in a number of inaccuracies and an inability to really come through an audit to correct these inaccuracies, where inaccuracies in the medical billing space really mean not enough revenue as providers should be getting. So what does Decimal Code do? We've created a machine learning natural language processing algorithm which can automatically read these text notes from providers and submit the correct CPT codes for reimbursement payments from there. We do this much faster, much more accurately than current methods. What this means or what this looks like for providers in action, let's look at the case of Michigan Medicine Surgery Department, which has over $600 million in annual reimbursements. The first problem area we'd be looking to tackling is prior authorization denials, where the industry standard is 9% of claims are initially denied, which for Michigan Medicine would result in $54 million in initial denials. The industry standard resubmission rate based on these denials then is actually only 35% due to, again, this disjointed and manual effort. Teams don't have the ability to comb through everything and correct it all, whereas Decimal Code would be able to automate this process and resubmit at an 80% rate, which for Michigan Medicine would actually result in over $24 million in additional captured revenue. How are we able to do this? So the technology actually began as a research project at the University of Michigan, where my co-founders, Mike and John, worked for the anesthesiology department and actually lead a nationwide consortium called MPOG, where they've been able to access over 15 million operative cases across 50 providers. This data is difficult to replicate and difficult to acquire. And so we've really been able to build out a unique technology in the procedural space. We're able to tailor it well to specific institutions given the nature of getting all this documentation from different groups. And it's not theoretical. This has been validated at the University of Michigan through a 2-year pilot with the anesthesiology department, where the team initially got an MTRAC commercialization grant to do the pilot. The pilot went so well, in fact, that the University of Michigan Medical Group went to my co-founders afterwards and said, how much money can you give your research lab after this to build out the technology everywhere as quickly as possible? And so they got a $1.5 million non-dilutive grant to their lab to continue working on the technology. It was at that point that we successfully patented the tech and spun out Decimal Code, licensing the tech from the University of Michigan so that we can build this out further, really everywhere. So what are the plans for Decimal Code then? Really, we're starting with this prior authorization audit space where the technology is actually already ready to go, but it will take us until Q2 to build out the first product, as really we've got to build an interface that other providers can interact. From there, we'd expand to front-end automated CPT coding in the procedure space, and then hospital charge reconciliation. Really, our next 2 big activities are going to be building out the prior authorization audit product and getting lead customer number 1. In order to do that, we're hoping to grease the wheels with $300,000 of a pre-seed round, which would really enable us to tackle these efforts mostly through technical development. With that, thanks so much for your time, and I hope to speak with everyone a bit more in the future.
Good job, Joe. I'd like to invite Paul Angot, who we saw here 2 months ago. Paul did a preview of innovative billboards that was so compelling that we invited him back to look under the hood, literally. Who else was on the call last weekend where we actually got to meet the scientists, the engineers who have developed this? Jim, you were on the call. These guys went down to the nuts and bolts and the finite element analysis and all of the scary pre-manufacturing engineering that has to be done to de-risk this first prototype before they would go into full production. It's rare that you get that deep a dive. Anybody who's more interested, Paul, you did record that session.
Yes.
So there's a wealth of diligence materials, a data room, and this really cool video of the technology at work. But we don't know what it does yet. So first, Paul, tell us about your work with Innovative Billboards.
Hi, my name's Paul Angot, company's Innovative Billboards, and we're looking for $250,000 to finish out our new current prototype for 2.5% of the company. We've raised $2 million, so this is our last angel round. It's the perfect time to invest. About 6 years ago, I was driving down the road and I started seeing digital billboards, and I thought, wow, it seems like they're springing up more and more. It turns out they're really only 3% of the market. Because of cost and so forth, which I said, wow, that leaves 97% for something new. All right. So this is me standing in front of the competition. That's an LED billboard. It's 14 by 48 feet. And but they're very expensive and they gobble up electricity about 10 times more than our billboard. So the profit you have today, if you own a billboard, is that the average annual profit is only $4,000 and there's no way to improve it. You're just stuck. You got static or digital. And that's it. So what we developed was a brand new mechanical scrolling billboard. Holds up to 12 ads. Designed to last 30 years. 10 years with no maintenance. And so that's our innovative idea. It simply scrolls. Holds 12 ads. Works from -50 to 150 degrees. Works in wind up to 100 miles an hour. Increases profit 10 to 1. The key, however, is 2-year payback, and that is the magic in the industry, which I'll show you. So some background. The first LED billboard was introduced around 2005, and it would be a retrofit to a static billboard to increase customers and profit. So by comparison, LEDs start at about 120 grand, and we'll sell ours at 64 grand. But the install cost is another 25 grand, which the billboard company pays. So 145 digital, 80 grand billboard in a box, and digital is banned in parts of 11 states. Digital and LED are synonymous. Here's the key slide. If you look at that installed cost of $145,000 versus 80 grand billboard in a box, the typical static billboard generates $2,100 every 4 weeks. It's kind of per month, but it's every 4 weeks. LED will generate 8 customers at $1,300 or 8 customers at $1,200 for billboard in a box. So the annual profit goes from 4 grand to 36 grand for LED or 40 grand for billboard in a box. But it's all about payback. So if you take the ratio of that $145,000 installed cost to 36 grand profit, it's 4-year payback. And all the billboard companies will tell you it's got to be 2-year payback. We've talked to over 40 billboard companies. They all tell you the same thing. So it's 4 years LED, 2 years billboard in a box, 80 divided by 40 grand. Cut off, as I say, is 2 years. And that's why, so you'd say no to LED and yes for our product. That's why in 17 years, digital has only garnered 3% of the market because of cost. So both the startup cost and the recurring cost is, say, 10 times higher electricity cost. So we improve profit 10 to 1 and 2-year payback. We developed I don't know if I checked this if I'm on the internet. Okay, well, I won't show this. I forgot to. We have a video where we have a custom trailer. We did that to improve the value proposition. So it's just a mount that goes on an existing trailer, so you can use a standard 53-foot trailer. Now, the billboard company is responsible for freight and transportation and installation, but it reduces. It's all part of the value proposition. It reduces that transportation cost, and also because the billboard's fully assembled in the factory and tested, you just use a pull truck to mount it. There's a neat animation that shows that, but I forgot to look up the internet to show you that. We have a patent that's very broad. It blocks competition. Plus, we're going after Europe, China, and India. I have a 10-page write-up on it. The market's gigantic. There's 165,000 14 by 48 foot billboards in the U.S., only 3% LED, so static 97%, as I mentioned. In the addressable market, there are 92,000 billboards with 2-year payback that are 14 by 48 feet. Billboards are banned in 4 states, so there's 46 states. So if you take on average 92,000 divided by 46 states, there's 2,000 billboards per state in our addressable market with 2-year payback. So it's a $6 billion market for us. It's huge. We take, for our sales forecast, we take that 2,000 billboards per state. We're only selling 6 per state to meet our numbers. 6 in year 1 out of 2,000 will get us our 30-to-1 return, which I'll show you. So year 2, it's 12 out of 2,000, 18, 24, 30 out of 2,000 per state. So I live in Oakland County. We'd expect to sell 20 or 30 in Oakland County alone. Plus there's 80 counties in the state. We have 6 for the whole state of Michigan. You can see it's pretty obtainable numbers. We'll make the boards here in Michigan. We'll actually buy the parts in India. And actually we're coming in below budget. And our cost is 30 grand. We'll sell them for 64 grand. Our customer is the billboard companies. There's over 500 of them. And the product was shipped directly from the assembly company here in Michigan directly to the billboard company. The billboard company pays the freight and installation. In terms of our go-to-market strategy, we have a 64-page marketing and sales plan. We'll hire a VP of marketing and sales. We'll hire reps. We have several interested already, and our Verlin Edwards, I'll come back to him. We started with talking to people in the industry. Outfront's number 1. So we talked to Tom Carroll, who was with Outfront for 40 years. He's retired. Actually, he lives here, not far from here in Grosse Pointe. Outfront's $1.8 billion in sales. Tom thinks he'd sell 20 the first year in Michigan, not 6, or a couple hundred, not 90. That's in our forecast in Michigan in 5 years. Paul Presser thinks it's phenomenal, especially in the small or middle-sized markets, let alone the large markets. Just think it has incredible opportunity. And Mike Cannon would like to be our VP of marketing and sales. Just sees phenomenal potential, much more than 6, 12, 18 per state per month. We've talked to over 40 billboard companies. 90% are interested in buying our billboards. We're in the addressable market with 2-year payback. Mark Becker, for example, is not only interested in buying our boards, he's interested in investing half to $750,000 once he sees the final prototype work. Verlin Edwards owns Apex Billboards. He owns 600 billboards. He's interested in investing $1 million after the prototype works, and he wants exclusive marketing and sales rights. And he also in Canada, he sees doubling or triple the numbers that we're talking about. He expects to dramatically exceed our sales presentation. Solico Capital, who some of you are familiar with, Jim, is particularly interested in $1 million. They've invested $162,000 so far. On our board is Jim Berline. Jim buys advertising, for example, for Wendy's in 35 markets. I mean, he buys billboards, TV, radio, all advertising, Buffalo Wild Wings, Total Healthcare, and so forth. And then David Rambajan was actually in the billboard industry. He and his partner invested $500 grand a couple years ago into the company. And then last week, David invested more. We've used some really premier design firms around the world. Analyzer in particular is a 130-man firm in India, and they do stuff in the automotive, transportation, airplanes, industrial consumer products with key companies all over the world. And they actually invest in the company or we trade it for services. We have 3,000 hours, what they call finite element analysis. We analyze the product life. So it's designed, the billboard's designed to last 30 years, 10 years with no maintenance, as opposed to digital. LED is only 10 years. So we have triple the life, at least projected. Nice thing about, as I say, with analyzers, they took equity. Monroe Associates, they are one of the premier firms for lean design. So they took our design, reduced cost, and improved quality. And they do stuff for Ford, GM, Chrysler, Tesla, airplane, submarines, and so forth. They're here in Auburn Hills. Sandy Monroe is a pioneer in that area. I've gotten to know Sandy. As I mentioned, we're coming in below budget of 30 grand. Soon we'll have cost of BOM, bill of material. And the reason for that is our, I'll come to it, our subcontractors coming out of India. So in our forecast, in year 1, we'll sell 6 billboards per state in 46 states, or 276 billboards. In year 5, that's 1,725 billboards, 88 million in revenue, 33.5 million EBITDA pre-tax profit. How you make money? I mentioned 250 grand for 2.5% of the company. We'll sell the company in year 5 at 6 times EBITDA, which is $201 million. 2.5% of that's $5 million. And then there's dividends over the first 5 years that would go back to owners. That's another $2.5 million. So it's $7.5 million that would go back to investors. That's 30 to 1 return. So that's the 30 to 1 I've talked about. So a 25 grand investment potentially returns 750 grand, 5 years, plus you get your money back in 2 years. The internal rate of return of 122%. We would sell to a major player like JC Deco, Outfront, Lamar, Clear Channel, Adams, or a media company. We do everything through the cloud. So if the billboard company wants to change the order of the ads, the duration, they can do it through the cloud. It's very clean. They can also see what ad is scrolling. There's a camera out front. There's a, I'm going to show a, this is a quarter scale prototype. I have to turn the sound off. That we showed a couple years ago. And it actually, although it's quarter scale, it operates at the same speed as, because it's 7 feet tall, but we scrolled it twice. Yeah, I have to turn mine off. And these rods you see in front disappear at about 150 feet. That's how we get the board can handle winds up to 100 miles an hour. So, and that's the actual size of a 14 by 48 foot billboard. You can see me talking at the back. It's real size motors, real size, real software and so forth. So we did show it scrolling. All right, this was me standing in front of the full-scale prototype. That's in Brown City. It's about an hour from here. And we have a couple of guys. You're just starting to see it scroll, but in the next couple of months, we should see it scrolling. However, when we have it scrolling full speed, we have 2.5 million lined up. So this is, I'm looking for the 250,000 to get it covered, to get it working. We have a list of 11 qualified assembly companies here in Michigan. We've talked to 3 of them, 200,000 square feet or above, robotic welding and high quality. We have a full-time purchasing person in India. We'll buy the parts in India. We have a couple of really key suppliers that we're talking to. In fact, I'm going to India at the end of the month. I've talked to Beckham several times. Beckham's a $1 billion company. They're a consolidator. They want to buy all our parts for us and build all the sub-assemblies. The thing is, it's at $4 an hour labor. That's the loaded labor rate. The workers make $1.17 an hour, and instead of $60 an hour here in Michigan. So they would buy the steel, the aluminum, the sub-assemblies, and so forth, ship them over. And then Vignan Electronics, they'll provide the electronics and the software. They are the largest producer of PLCs. That's programmable logic controls. That's electronics. It's the brains, you might say, for injection mold machines. They're the largest in India. We have a great relationship. One of our owners' wife's grandfather started Beckham, and Chandu's dad owns half of Vignan. So kind of nice to, it's kind of relationship based, but a lot in the Orient is relationship based. David's smiling. And then we have the Accurate Group, phenomenal group. They are world-class for quality control. It's a 1,200 person firm in India. So we'll do incoming, in-process, and final quality control. And you can see their customers, Ford, GM, Chrysler, Yamaha, Bosch, you name it. They are the premier for quality control in India. We've designed for 30-year life, 10 years with no maintenance. And so we look at every component, every motor, every gear. It's hardened steel, every component. The acrylic has on the front 30-year warranty. Every steel part, every weld, every fastener. Believe me, we've gone into great detail to make sure it works right. We have some phenomenal material called Bopet. We scoured the world for the best of the best. And it's incredible. It's non-terrible, and we have an incredible tape that tapes them together. So the beauty is you can add, move, and remove ads in 15 minutes with 2 guys in any weather, or what comes up overhead is in the video. There's nothing like this in the world. And we have 2 rolls of signs so that you can actually get to any of the 12 ads at any point in time. That's very unique. There's nothing like this in the world. In terms of timing, we'll have all our 3D model done. That's the complete design. Will be frozen in about 10 days. The 2D drawings will be done by the end of next month, and we plan to start sales in November. Break even, there's 92,000 billboards in the addressable market. It's about 165 billboards, sales of that, about 4 million pre-tax profit. That would be technically break even, but for investors, it would take you about 2 years to get your money back That's at about 400 billboards that we'd sell. So you should get on your investment, you should get 30 to 1 in 5 years, but get your money back in 2 years. We meet our numbers. On the $250,000, I'm raising 100 grand working capital. You see 75 grand operations, prototype testing, 50 grand in tooling. Recapping then, it's a game-changing technology. Annual profit goes from 4 grand to 40 grand a year with 2-year payback. It's a $6 billion US market. It's patented, very broad patent we've taken around the world. We'll start sales in fourth quarter this year. We have extremely strong customer interest because it increases profit 10 to 1 with 2-year payback. We have potential $2.5 million of investment once we show the full-scale working prototype. We've raised over $2 million. This is the last angel round. We have an outstanding design team. I didn't mention we have 10 PhDs on the team, and I actually have 42 patents. I was named Entrepreneur of the Year. I'm wrapping up. We have an excellent supply chain, quarter-scale working prototype facility here in Michigan, 31 return on investments, and break even at 165 billboards. Thanks for listening.
Give it up for Walter Hooper, who got the sound working on the street. And also give it up for Paul Engott. Questions for innovative billboards?
Yeah.
I'm of Indian descent, and I can say, not that I have experience, but just general knowledge, it can be pretty challenging for reliability, quality control. How reliant is your business model on working with?
It's
You see
reliant,
potential problems.
but I've had 10 million products built for me in China. I've sold $100 million of stuff I've patented. I have 42 patents. I used to own a company in Hong Kong, so I'm intimately familiar. I've been there 30 times. So when I started in China, in Hong Kong, and then later in China, which is kind of similar to India, in 1983, there was those challenges. We did a $6 billion program with Amway, for example, and I can tell you we had our challenges. But what I find is, in general, I have 10 PhDs on the team, and we have phenomenal design and documentation, tolerance stack-ups. And the companies I'm talking about, when you're talking about Beckham at $1 billion in sales, we will inspect the parts. In a lot of cases, we're going to do 100% inspection of like the sub-assemblies. It's the same thing I did. I mean, I've sold Home Depot, personally sold Home Depot, Sears, Lowe's, Ace, Cotter, you name it. I've sold them. And those products are all built in China. In 83, I sold that company in 1996. So I've had 10 million products there. So I have a lot of experience in the Orient. And it's a matter of typically what I see in quality is typically 90% is in design. And then beyond that, you have to have the right processes, that's the right tooling, and then the quality control. We've got a world-class team for quality control, and I really feel confident. I have 225 grand in the company, and believe me, I have confidence that I can get the products built. We had by far the best quality of any of the retailers. I mean, in our category, I invented wireless doorbells and door chimes. So believe me, a lot of experience. I have full-time people there.
All of a sudden, the shipment doesn't show up, and you don't know why.
I have an incredible woman, purchasing agent there with 2 master's degrees from premier universities. I have other employees. I have a ton of people over there, and I'll be going back and forth. I'm going on the end of the month. Other questions? Jim?
Jim, then John. Then
So
Jason.
the revenues from selling the billboards, you're not participating in the advertising revenue, right? You're selling the equipment.
I didn't mention that. There was an and that I didn't get to. Actually, we're going to sell ads. We'll sell them at 500, make them for about 250, and that'll add to the 30 to 1, making it more like 32 to 1. We're going to offer a 2-year warranty, but we're designed for 30 years, 10 years with no maintenance. And we'll sell a warranty program at $2 grand a year, starting in year 3. That also adds to the 30 to 1 return.
Jim, are you asking about placements or media?
What?
I wanted to understand once you get beyond selling
The board?
whatever your market saturations and your units out there and installed, then what is the company beyond equipment?
Yeah, on average, people are talking about 10 ads per year. And I've looked at selling them 10 new ads at $500 a piece per year, Jim. Okay, so it's $5,000 a year, but it's about 2,500 gross profit. But that compounds because when you sell that first 276 billboards the first year, and then they buy 10 the next year. But in year 2, you get the first year, but you get second year. So in other words, let's use round numbers. If I sell 300 billboards, I sell 3,000 ads. In year 2, I sell 6,000, but I got another 3,000 from year 1. So it goes, the numbers go 3,000, 9,000, 18,000. Okay, ads to sell at $500 each. You follow me? Because they're gonna keep replacing them year after year. That's what they tell me in the market.
John and then Rick.
Yes, I had 2 questions. One, so how did you figure this sales of 6 per state per year? Sounds like that's constant in 5 years.
I work backwards. 30-to-1 return is phenomenally high because what I find is typical groups like this, you want 10-to-1 return in 5 years. And so I made it 3 times that. And I said, how do I get there? And so I worked backwards to it to say, okay, there's 2,000 billboards per state. How many do I have to sell? Because I had numbers that were, instead of 276 billboards the first year, I had 3. Some of my sales guys said 500 or 600. And I said, no, I don't want a 50 or 60-to-1 return. I get pushback because when I tell people 30-to-1 return, they think I'm crazy. Okay. So I kept scaling the numbers back. That's how I got to the numbers. You follow me, John?
Yeah, so I guess it sounds like you're just limiting it to 6 per state.
No. Verlin Edwards thinks he's going to sell double or triple that. Tom Carroll thought he would sell 20 the first year in Michigan, not 6. That's triple. Tom Carroll, who's been in the business 40 years, thinks in 5 years we'd sell 200 in Michigan. I have 90. And if you add up the 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, that's 90 over 5 years. He thinks he'd sell 200. So I just scaled it back because when you talk about, if I talk about a 50-to-1 or 60-to-1 ROI, it's just too extreme.
Then I had another question. So on just the billboard market, where has that been trending?
It's actually growing, believe it or not. I mean, but there aren't many new billboards added. Okay. But there is some growth in LED, not a lot. It's only 3% of the market in 17 years. All right, but but it's viable, and the market is growing. There was another.
And then JP.
So just a quick question. So how did your production costs for these compare to, I mean, I know what the old overall styles, how does this?
Well, it depends. The biggest part, a lot of times, is the pole. The pole can be $40,000 or $50,000. So if you want to count the pole, I mean, what we have is really a retrofit. So the pole is already there. So it depends. You know, there aren't many new billboards being built. So it's the pole, but the billboard themselves are only $5 or $10,000 for static. They're not a lot of money. But people are stuck. There's no way to increase your revenue. You're stuck. I mean, that's it. I mean, what do you got? You got static, 97% of the market, or digital, huh?
Which you can only take up and down once a month.
Yeah, but you got static and digital. There's-
So digital, you can change.
oh yeah, sure. If you want to spend the money, but in 17 years, we've only sold 5,000. It's 3% of the market in 17 years. That's the whole point. Yeah, you can change them easily. But you can change ours in 15 minutes with 2 guys. Okay, and that's built into the value proposition as well. Other questions?
So I'm a little confused on the ask. You mentioned a 250,000 raise, 2.5%.
Yeah.
So you're leaving open another 5 million. Second raise, what's the time on that? And is that included in the dividend portion you're talking
30-to-1 return, I should have explained this. I'm glad you asked. Is after dilution. So if there's any dilution, it comes out. There's a group called the Anti-Group, a bunch of founders. The 30-to-1 return is after dilution. After I raise another $2 million behind this quarter. Okay, so we'll eat the dilution. So it's a $10 million valuation. It's 2.5% of the company for $250,000. So this is the last angel round. Then I have $2.5 million lined up. Of that, I'll raise $2 million. I need $1 million to get to market. I'll raise $2 million for cushion. But the 30-to-1 return is after dilution. So that's what you should get. Plus, make money on sale of ads and make money on sale of recurring revenue from selling warranty programs. Okay, which increases the 30-to-1.
That group, or 97%, or?
No, I've raised $2 million already, right? Okay, I mean, if you like, I'll show you the whole cap table and I'll show you the whole list of owners. I've got, I don't know, 70 or 80 owners. Yeah, I'm up in book. I have a cap table, I have a list of owners, 10-page write-up on the patent, cash flow plan, operating agreement, subscription agreement, you name it, I've got it. 64-page marketing and sales plan. Other question?
Sure.
Scott?
So I think you said that you had the quarter scale prototype working.
Yeah.
And scaling up that design, I guess.
Yes.
So what I'd like to understand is what's the cost of getting the full scale prototype finished? And I think you mentioned you had other investors that were ready to invest once the prototype was
Yes.
functional.
Yes.
And so I'd like to understand how those pieces fit together. What's the 250,000 go for, and then what happens after that?
When I started 6 years ago, I thought that the viewing area had to be 14 by 48 feet. And then when I met with Roland Edwards, the guy that owns 600 billboards, he said, no, Paul, that's not right. I knew digitals were smaller. So he said, no, the outside has to be 14 by 48 feet. So what happened was we redesigned the board. We started with a clean sheet of paper. We learned so much from the prototype. So we will build a second production prototype. And we'll start that in maybe the next 30 days. The 3D drawings will be done at the end of this month. The 2D drawings will be done at the end of the day. So we do have a prototype built, but there's so many problems. I don't know if it's going to scroll right. The motors are the wrong size. The software isn't as good. They're AC motors. The new design has DC motors. The old design had 9,000 stick material that was PVC material. The new material is 4,000 stick, and it's this Pointe that's the best in the world. So maybe I'll have it working in a couple months. Maybe I won't. But what I'm really figuring is I'll get the new production design prototype working. Now, that'll probably be working in September. All right. So in September, then I'll raise that. Then I've got Roland Edwards for $1 million. I've got Mark Becker for $1 million. Actually, I had another call this morning from a group in London for $1 million. So after the prototype work. That answer your question? Francis?
So Paul, when you say you're selling advertising, the print.
Yeah. We'll go to a printer.
Yeah, you're not going to sell.
No. We just sell the ad, the 14 by 48 foot piece of Pointe material. It's printed. We sell. So we're estimating our cost of $250, maybe $300. Yeah, we'll sell for $500. Yeah, we just sell the ad thing. Craig and I
You're
talked
nodding.
about
That's reasonable by you? Craig started printing something.
Yeah, believe me, Craig and I have talked about it. Craig loves the material. Yes.
Out of mechanical curiosity, you say you're going to DC motors on like a step motor.
It's not. It's a regular DC motor.
So as you scroll these things,
Yeah.
They're on separate strips, correct?
What we have, there's a roll. There's a tube, 48 feet long.
Yeah.
One at the top, one at the bottom. Okay, and it's rolled up, and I can show you this.
Those lines. Each one's
Yeah, well, okay, there's, what we have is, we call signs and curtains. We have a roll with up to nine ads on it called signs, okay? And we have a roll at the top and up the bottom. There's a motor at the top, and there's a motor at the bottom. And then we have a separate roll, what we call curtains. And now, let me explain the reason for that. It's in our patent. You have to scroll, we talked to Billboard attorney, you have to scroll in a second. So we scroll in 0.98 seconds. Yeah, it goes 22 feet per second at maximum speed. That's a sine wave. And we actually control the speed of the motor 2,500 times a second. I talked to, because that's the law for LED billboards. He said, you got to change in a second. So I said, okay, we're going to meet that. So we scroll in 0.98 seconds. That's why it's a 10 horsepower motor. So we have two rolls, 48-foot tube, one at the top and bottom. But then we have a roll we call curtains, and it goes add, clear, add, clear, add. So you'd have a clear piece of material up like this. The reason for that is that we start off with the clear panel, and let's say you're on add 2, McDonald's, and you want to change it to add 7, which is Burger King. Okay, you can't scroll from 2 to 7 in a second. Okay, you can barely scroll add to add. But what you do is you start off on total healthcare, and you have McDonald's. You start off on a clear panel, and you're on McDonald's, and then you have the ad go up or down to a different company, okay? It's like GM. And then you slowly scroll from 2 to 7, okay? And then you go to the clear panel. So I can get to all 12 ads in the billboard, and no one has that capability. Maybe I went too fast on that, but you can get to all 12 ads. And typically you only need to show 8. So we have kind of
My
over
question
design.
was more, that's very interesting, by the way, is these strips have to coordinate, they have to align just right by the independent.
They're independent, yes.
Something stretches over time.
Okay, we drive the 48-foot tube with a 24-foot tube in the middle of the aluminum tube. The tube is a 50 millimeter OD, 3 millimeter wall tube. So it does stretch, and it stretches 63 thousandths of an inch maximum with the Bow Pet material. If anyone would like more info, I think that's my time's up.
That's your time's up. But
So
there is a
please see me-
technical presentation that we did
What?
Tuesday, or a week ago.
Oh, yes.
That goes into this in really gory detail.
Yeah, I go into a ton of detail. So please see me afterward if you have more questions. I have a
Oh, I ain't
complete
got it.
amount.
Now I'm supposed to vamp for a couple seconds while Cheryl and Rebecca get set up for the next presentation. Paul? Bo?
Thank you.
Access models. Yes. So I first met Paul at the Rock School of Business with his previous venture. He was commercializing cancer diagnostic out of the Carolinas Cancer Institute. And then before that, he was doing consumer packaged goods out of China. This is the breadth of entrepreneurship. For the serial entrepreneur, the one and done entrepreneurs, great respect. When you're a serial entrepreneur, you're solving different problems each time. And Paul and I have the gray hair to show. First, we came across Cheryl Sawicki, Rebecca Altunian, and Saliva Systems, thanks to the New Enterprise Forum. New Enterprise Forum has been meeting in Ann Arbor for dinosaurs stomped here. And we have at NEF high standards and low expectations. So the coaches at NEF are fantastic. And they'll work on a venture, and then they'll say, "Oh, you're not ready yet." And then they'll hold it back for a couple months and work on it some more, and then they'll say, "Oh, you're not ready yet." Saliva Systems flew through NEF coaching, gave a presentation the likes of which NEF had rarely seen. The team was mobbed afterwards by, among others, me, who said, "Wow, would you like to talk to some angel investors?" And Rebecca's response was,
Absolutely.
"Absolutely." Have you got all your props set up?
I think
vamp
we're big
them?
on props, so I hope
Okay.
you guys like props.
You got
but
the
yeah.
head and.
Well, the head we could save him for maybe Q&A.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
but
bring
if
him
we-
out
if
at
we
the
can.
appropriate moment.
Yeah.
And are you plugged in? and ready to rock?
Let me just see. I'm working over here.
You're not plugged in.
Make sure that this is ready to fly.
All right, stand behind there.
Right here?
Anything behind here is good.
All right.
All right. Cheryl, you presenting? You're...
Nope, she's leaving it to me.
Oh, okay. Rebecca Altunian and Saliva Systems.
Wow, thank you for the introduction, David, and for finding us at the NEF. This is exciting to be here with you guys tonight. We appreciate it. It's one of our first angel presentations, so it's a great place to be. Before I start, I want to ask you all to do something. Just settle in and swallow. So not only are you a good-looking group, you did something that millions of Americans cannot do. Actually, today you will swallow 700 times. You will manage a liter of bacteria-filled secretions without even thinking about it. But if you could not, you would join 15 million Americans dealing with something called dysphagia. Dysphagia is the difficulty or inability in swallowing as a symptom of disease. Again, 15 million Americans are dealing with dysphagia. Of the 15 million Americans, 60,000 of these patients die from costly and deadly infections like aspiration pneumonia. The inability to properly manage dysphagia costs the healthcare system $7 billion each year. So who are these people with something you may have never heard of until today? It's us. 1 in 25 Americans will have dysphagia in their lifetime. Who are they? Maybe you know somebody with Alzheimer's, ALS, MS, Parkinson's disease, a stroke, men and women, young and old. They're in hospitals, rehab centers, nursing homes, and in hospice, and they're cared for at home. In the institution, it is the nurse's job to manage oral secretions from the patient who cannot. And at home, it is the caregiver's job, or maybe a loved one, to help their patient through this. So what is the problem with dysphagia? The problem is just because you can't swallow does not mean saliva production stops. Patients and clinicians do not have a good way to manage this. What you see here in my hand, I'm pretty sure some of us have experienced this at the dentist, no? Right? This is what is used in the institution to manage a dysphagic patient. This is a hard plastic wand connecting to tubing. This connects to negative pressure, usually on the wall behind the bed. It is required for a nurse to come in and manually remove oral secretions from the mouths of these patients. Patients may require this more than once an hour, but it is standard for the nurse to come in and suction the patient once an hour. Now, this is hard plastic. It often causes trauma to the mouth, to the soft tissues of the mouth. It is very, very dangerous to leave the patient vulnerable. Remember, we're making a liter of this bacteria-filled secretion. When you leave a patient who cannot swallow with this pooling, it oftentimes gets into their airways. And that's when we talk about these very dangerous, deadly, and costly infections. This is also a single-use device. It should be thrown away each time after it is used. It creates an enormous amount of non-recyclable medical waste. But now I know you're all here to hear the wonderful solution, and this is the solution. The solution is SWIC. SWIC was developed by me. I had a crisis in health in my lifetime, and I decided to make a change. There's a major gap in care, and there's a very deserving and actually anxious to get this product population. SWIC is placed in the anterior sulcus of the mouth. And we'll do it for you after, but it goes right into that interbuccal. Once the nurse puts this in the mouth, she can leave the patient for up to 12 hours. So we'll continuously, comfortably, without caregiver intervention, manage oral secretions away from the patient. And these can be thin secretions, they can be thick secretions. This device is small, but it can handle a lot. SWIC is made with the patient in mind because I was a patient, right? So what are we gonna do? We're gonna make it comfortable. We're gonna give the patient back some freedom, some dignity. It's made from a soft hydrophilic foam. We'll have these for you guys to touch after. And it's antimicrobial. It has got a proprietary connector, tubing, and a universal connector that also connects to all pumps that are on the market. Oh, and I didn't even show you the solution slide. So there you go, continuous, hands-free, and comfortable. The market for a device like this is quite large. We've got 15 million in the United States. That's just in the worldwide, it's even bigger, obviously. We're targeting our beachhead market. We found where the concentration of these dysphagic patients are. They're in trauma, they're in neurology, and they're in the ICU. And that's where our beachhead market is going to start. So Saliva Systems, we are an early phase company. Well, we have some really unique things going on for us. One is we are a product that is completely through the FDA. I don't know who here knows anything much about medical device. We are a class 1, 510K exempt device. We've been registered with the FDA for quite some time. That helps us get to revenues quickly because we don't have to go through all that FDA any longer. We have Medicare billing codes that help support sales. We have patents on this device, and we have a design patent on this blue piece right here that is still pending. The other devices are issued. We have our Michigan-based partners here that are able to scale with us as we grow, and we're in use with select patients. We chose some patients for market validation, and wow, it was great. We learned this works. People want it. It's safe. It did everything that we wanted it to do. The outreach has been incredible from customers. The stars you see on the map indicate both patients and clinicians who are reaching out to Saliva Systems to learn more, and that's both nationally and internationally. Here's some of the market validation that most recently has come into Saliva Systems. We are making connections, we have made connections with all of these groups. We're going to learn about their buying process and turn this into sales. Just today, we were on the phone with Jefferson Health. We are collaborating with Jefferson Health on a project for their ALS patients, and the Veteran Health Administration is our early target for our market entry. Why did we choose this? We chose this because it is the largest integrated health system in the country. The VA divides the country into 18 integrated systems. They're also initiated to create the best quality of care for the veterans, which is a wonderful thing. Devices like SWIC that offer enhanced care is a target for the VA. We partnered with Red One Medical. Red One Medical is a leader in medical device sales for the distributor for the VA. They're also a service-disabled small business. We're able to capitalize on that certification, and it really helps us get to the top of the buying chain. So what I am really excited to report to you guys is out of the 18 integrated systems, Saliva Systems is actively right now working within 3 of those systems. Our value proposition lies not only in an enhanced, better way to manage these patients, it's in cost savings, reduced nursing care time. If you could imagine what it takes for the nurse to continually go in there and remove secretions that she knows as soon as she leaves are going to pull right back in there. We have devices a day. So if they're discarding 24 of these a day versus 2 of our SWIC devices, we not only can beat them on the price, I think we beat them by a pretty good chunk of change there once we add up our daily use. We base this on, by the way, 10 patients annually. Improved quality of care. If you all know about value-based care, it's about better patient outcomes. Those surveys you get when you leave, they mean something because those positive surveys really do help healthcare create they give them basically bonuses for positive, all right, well here, we can improvise. I'll move this closer. Maybe we can improvise a little.
I got your slides.
Here, I could do this here, huh?
It just is not connecting.
It was there.
Well, here.
It was working for a second. But,
I'll keep moving though. So, or is because you didn't stop my clock, David.
Oh, you said
Okay.
Good,
Anyways, so our market entry strategy, we're going to target large institutions. And what's happening for us is we haven't deployed a marketing initiative yet, but our customers are actually selling the device for us. And like, what's better than to have your customers selling with you? Our patients and clinicians are bringing the idea and SWIC actually into their healthcare systems, either to their doctors, speech and language pathologists are really the people that manage these dysphagic patients, and they're showing the device and pushing it into their systems, which is helping us greatly. We also will deploy our own sales team. Oh, you passed me. Now we got to do this. So,
Where are you at?
right there, babe. Right there. There. Saliva Systems has their own sales force. We will deploy them in as well. Distribution partnerships will help us sell into these institutions, and then a future inclusion into the GPOs will further aid our ability to get into these institutions. It is our value proposition. It is our value proposition and the clinical demand that will help us with the value analysis committees in these institutions and in the procurement departments of these institutions. All right, back on track. And here is a dynamic, amazing team. Each member that you see on this slide has skin in the game, which is really important. To me, that means that they really believe in what we're doing and they're passionate, but not only are they passionate, they're actually brilliant. We're always looking to expand our team as we go. But right now, we have Cheryl Sawicki, who she'll introduce herself after, and Troy, he's right here, he'll introduce. Laura Fuss, she's got 25 years biomedical engineering, and she's a regulatory officer. She does all of our quality work. Right now, she's working with our manufacturers. We have Mandy Morgan. She's our clinical specialist. She's been a speech and language pathologist for 25 years. She works daily with the patients that we're servicing. Matt Wilhelmi has been selling medical device into the industry for over 25 years. He's worked with most of the big names, and he is onboarded with us to help us kick this device off into the market. And Chip Irwin has 20 years of banking, finance, and marketing strategy. So the competition for SWIC is this wand. It's called the Yankauer wand, and that's probably the closest device, right? But there are medications that sometimes are used on an already pretty sick patient. These medications have a very heavy side effect load on these patients, and some patients just simply cannot tolerate them. Bibs are actually on there, and it's really not a joke. Unfortunately, some quite dignified folks that end up in this predicament end up with very little to do about their swallowing disorder, and these people will resort to bibs or towels in their mouths. They really don't have many options. So the financial slide you see here is based on our seed round, which is $1 million raise, and an anticipated Series A raise in 2025. We get to revenues rather quickly. We actually hit the ground running at a gross profit of 65%. So because one of those products, as you can see, it's really, really easy to low cost to manufacture. And as volumes increase, we get to $32 million by 2027. Another interesting thing about the growth of SWIC and the scalability of SWIC is that $32 million at the end of 2027 represents 3,000 patient equivalents. So anybody using SWIC at any given time in the United States, that's only 3,000 patients. And that's really rather quite achievable, especially with a market this size. So our seed round, again, it's $1 million is our complete seed round. And that gives us in 24 months to a 4 million annualized revenues. We build and sell 125 SWIC devices, and we will be in 19 facilities. So here are the leading manufacturers and distributors of this Yankauer wand. Companies like Saliva Systems with novel technologies like Swift often become targets for these groups. And actually in 2022, there were 889 medical device transactions, totaling $93 billion. Tease that apart, that's about $100 million per transaction for these medical device companies. And this is part of our next conversation, which we'll handle during Q&A. It was short and it is sweet. I wanted to say something. The one thing about SWIC that I think is really exciting, it's where we're at in real time. It's really important to know. We are early phase. And I don't know the appetite of the investors in the room, but we have a product that is ready to go to market. It is barcoded. It is made in an ISO compliant facility. We have market demand. We have patients seeking this market. We have facilities that we can go directly into. We have the sales team to go into these. So we are an early project, but it is a very, very exciting time for us to move forward. And being here with you all has been wonderful. In spite of the technical difficulties, I think that I'm under time, but would love to answer questions if you guys have any. And there's one right away. We're FDA registered.
Okay.
We're exempt.
I got something FDA ready. So you can go out and sell these tomorrow.
We've been selling them. So we have already made sales. It's not huge sales, but we definitely have sold them, and that includes to the VA system.
That's good.
That's really good. So
That's what we sold.
yes. So being registered with the FDA is golden, right? Because it's hard to work that FDA. So that is a real big value that we have going for us there.
A question on the use of funds. So you're at about 360.
Want to go back to that slide?
For sales, marketing, and expense on that side. The rest of that plan for inventory, or
Yes.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah, I caught part of your question. So inventory is right there.
So how much, 125,000? So how quick is the turnaround time? Is there any opportunity for stocks or?
So that will improve over time, obviously, because we're making small batches now and our, order quantities are low right now. But once we are up and running, the like time to build devices is just a matter of weeks. I mean, we're partnering with 2 different manufacturers in Michigan. Both of them have the ability to scale and grow with us, and they have room to expand their capacities. And they can really, just those 2 manufacturers here in Michigan can carry us through the first 3 years of our forecast. And then we've already identified some potential partners once we are turning so largely that we might need to go overseas.
Greg, and then Laura.
Can you say a bit more about your patents and specifically what's protected?
Yes, so Saliva Systems actually started off as a different device. It was created by myself after some cancer that I had and an autoimmune disease that prohibited me from making saliva at the time. So the device that was initially created, and this, by the way, this is way getting in the weeds, and we try not to talk about this. This device can still do that, by the way. This was the original device, but it was intended to help patients with severe chronic dry mouth, a market of 30 million people, by the way, side note. So that is what is patented. But as we continued to develop, and there were 14 iterations of this until we got to the most comfortable, easiest, cheapest way to make this device. So this right here is what is patent, our go-to-market device. But there's a lot more to it. This is not just for oral secretions. This is for body fluids. This could potentially be used in different parts of the body due to its unique size and things like that. So almost as if it would be akin to some type of wound drainage. But the IP is all on the website. There's an IP page on salivasystems.com, and you can take a look at in depth on that.
You said that they're manufactured in Michigan.
Yeah.
And all are the parts.
The parts aren't all from Michigan. It is all U.S. made at this point in time. This blue piece is made directly from us in, I think it's Minnesota. The rest comes from a national company that makes the tubing. And this is made in Grand Rapids. Mhm. No, we're all national.
And you mentioned that at first I thought you were talking about the my brother just had throat cancer radiation.
Yeah.
And saliva.
Mhm.
And you can't produce. That helps with secretion, which is like over.
So we're not going to market with that at all. We haven't. The device does it. Our focus, and that there's many ways to expand this market, right, and many places to deploy sales. But we are pin focused on the dysphagic population, removing. Once that's up and running, there's a lot of opportunity for expansion into the replenishment. And I'm sorry for I know how bad that is. So I'm sorry to hear about that. Yeah, we do have a quick video we could show you guys. It's put on Nick, who's around we call our mannequin Nick from Swick, but we do have a quick video there that we could show you if you want to see how it goes in, if that's of interest. But it's pretty simple, which is part of its beauty.
So this seems like an obvious good idea, and the economics seem to be very clear. I mean, in terms of the devices used, much less labor. So what are your barriers to selling more? I mean, it would seem like.
Can I be just point blank honest?
Please.
All right. Our barriers to more is that we're raising money. I mean, we don't have many barriers. Probably the biggest one is changing over a long-standing practice. I mean, this has been going on forever, and it's really educating. What we thought was going to be a barrier actually isn't. Because as soon as people see this, and I would be honest with you guys, I really haven't encountered anybody that didn't say, oh, wait, why didn't I think of that? I mean, we've been to, and I want to also explain, it's been a handful of trade shows, and I did a 15-minute podcast that I thought no one would ever listen to. And as soon as that podcast was done, we get calls, and we have, and on the next slide there, oh, maybe not there, we had a slide of just quotes from patients, clinicians. Really, the barrier is just scaling and capital.
If I can expand just a little bit, I mean, really, it's this piece right here. Like, salesmen, you can't have salesmen go out and sell without inventory. So until there is inventory, which is capital to do, then it really kind of delays the process a little bit.
It seems like a relatively low risk. Just need money for you.
Well, a little more than that.
I mean, expansion of our sales team, we do have but we're going out and selling as well. So there's a little bit of expansion there. IP is secured. I am generally a big spender, but on this company, we were able to be incredibly frugal. It was money raised by my family, myself, and so I, yes, but it really is. Right now, our pinch, our conundrum isn't market validation. It isn't, does it work? Can we manufacture it? Is it a prototype yet? Is it any of that? It's really building our inventory so that we can explode this.
Chris?
What is the estimated cost to make it? Price purchase or reimbursement after reimbursement?
We do have Medicare reimbursement. It varies in every state, as you probably know. In Michigan, it's $10. Our market validation has shown us that we can sell this anywhere from 15 to 25. So we're price pointed at 20 right now. We know that we'll probably get beat up over time with the GPOs and as this thing starts to take off, but then we can also bring down our price once our manufacturing closes. We start at a 65% gross profit margin right out of the gate, and that increases. Right now, low volumes, we're making them just under 10, but that goes exceedingly down as volumes go up, and we baseline somewhere around just at 5 with this model.
John?
Yeah,
follow, Chris.
The pump cost,
So the pump isn't our business yet. I've got this really swag pump that's designed, but it's everything in time, right? So as we focus, we're really laser focused. The pump isn't our business, but we have pumps that we recommend. The pump in the institution is another reason we're targeting institution. It's there. It's perfect. They know how to use it. This is just a plug and play thing. They just plug it in. They know the pump. Our patients often go home, and that's something that I didn't talk about that I wanted to. It wasn't my fault though because the computer stopped working. But I want to quickly bounce on something. Our patients will go home. They'll have the device probably in their mouth. They're not going to want to revert back to that. We have a very strong home market too, so it's not just the institutions. So patients are at home right now dealing with this, and that's a market that they have come to us already. They found us through the internet searching. They're finding us. It's great because they can buy directly from Saliva Systems or they can buy from their DME or other distributors. So it's a great market that I'm glad that you asked me that because I did not want to leave that out because it will help support us grow as we get into these institutions. Because sometimes that, truthfully, that can be a little tricky, but we're doing it. But it's a good underbelly market that keeps kind of going. Pumps, am I out of time? You got to give me extra.
No, I was going to follow on Chris. This is a little late in the game to learn that you had a direct-to-consumer business. Now I'm all curious about how big a portion of your revenue that is and what's the price point.
Well, it's about 25% of our revenue.
So the home market it's a national market. It's not where comes right out of use in the institution, as well as those are the people finding us right now. They have a problem. They're seeking a solution and they are finding us. In our forecast and all of that, it's probably about 25-75 institutional versus the home market.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
it's a strong market for us.
Scott, and then Rich.
Oh, pumps. Let me touch on pumps really quick because so we have pumps that we recommend to our patients. They can get it through their DME. This is not a prescribed product. You don't need the doctor to prescribe it for you. Usually if a patient goes home that cannot swallow, they will write a protocol for their follow-up. This will be recommended to them along with a pump that comes through their insurance, through their DME. We're going to follow that exact pattern.
John, and then Rod.
So those connect to the same pumps.
Yeah, these connectors will connect to the pump she has here, which is the pump we recommend. We're also working with Medela right now. That's a whole nother gig, but just for our patients. So this will connect there. This will also connect to it. One of these costs to make. Tier 1 pricing is around into institution $225. And this is also a commoditized product. use, I know if you guys have seen like surgery show, they're like, it's suction. I mean, this is the same thing. They're not, this is just not specific to oral secretion. This is the first only hands-free continuous device for the dysphagic patient on the market. This is it. This is found in all different areas of the hospital. This could drive down, exceedingly lower, yes, for sure. I mean, right now, you know how it goes. When you're building less, it's kind of boutique pricing. We've identified a manufacturer in Mexico, and you know, the prices could go down, and the process will change too over time.
I grew up with a family of heads of departments of no, that is attorneys. So I have to ask the question, since it is a patient device, there's a very litigious area, as you know, medical and and all that. Is there any choking, have any concern? You have insurance that covers you in the event of something?
We are
you and I could never.
We are insured, and of course, everything has risk. This has risk. We had a daughter who punctured the back of her dad's throat trying to do it for the nurse when he was choking. Everything has risks. She's not here tonight. Our quality manager has a QMS about this thick. We have thought of every risk possible, and we've tested against those risks. And we are as safe as we can possibly be. The manufacturer did a pull test of this. It pulls to 12 pounds before it even begins to fray. There's been an incredible amount of safety in this. I myself make sure, because I could never, if this goes in a child or something, you know, we got to be as safe as possible. This can also be taped to the face if it needs to be extra secure. If anybody knows what WERB is, it's the Western IRB. They approve products to go into institutions. From the WERB, we were classified as a low-risk product. And that is also why we were able to get the 510K exempt. But of course, I mean, it's a great question to ask. And it's one I asked and made sure that we mitigated risk at every corner that we could.
You are sure.
We are. I mean, we're ready to roll. We're So it's a great question. In institution, we'd like them to change them out every 12 hours. So we're thinking once a shift, right? Just change them out. If the patient has to go down for a test, or if, you know, this is crazy to me, and I hear this, but it really happens. Someone could literally be able to eat a hamburger, but they can't manage their own viscous secretions. And so if something is taken out, we would like them to replace it. At home, our patients, you know, we're following that same thing every 12 hours, 2 a day. We toss them.
So I'm Rich Bruder, I'm the lawyer for this company.
Oh, you can't tell.
I'm about to tell you the bias. I represent.
That's not a question.
He's heard it all.
Chill.
I represent medical device companies. The director of one of my other med device companies told me recently, the biggest risk to angels in this game is not the market, it's not sales, it's not what it works, it's dilution. You don't play in the A round, the B round, the C round, the D round, you get squished. This device is kind of a hidden thing here. With this type of device in this market, easy, repeatable, high margin, low cost, all we have to do is prove traction. And some other company will come and buy us. Medline, Chesson, big distributor, Beckman Dixon, and we're out. We may not get to a B round. That's good news for you because it's low dilution. I mean, we could play it all out and turn this into a cash cow, run it for years. Or we could have an early exit, which is good for angels. Hey, that's fine. That's it.
So
You don't work for Rebecca?
I'll do plans.
I did have a question on your
In Michigan.
Is that the same rate that their product? Is that the code you're using?
Mhm.
Or is there
That's we're working on a unique code. We're working on a unique code. However, we are sort of sticking with what we have because the simpler we make it for the clinicians, the closer you make it to what they have now, the easier chance, the less barriers you give them to say, oh, I don't want to have to do that. What's that code? Da, da, da. So it is the same code that we're working with this wand with. Exactly.
One more question.
Which is another, by the way, de-risker, right? Because de-risker from a patient point of view. CMS doesn't just give out codes. They also vet it for its safety. Does it benefit their beneficiaries? And the answer is yes.
Did you have something? No? All right, let's give it up for Rebecca.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much.
A big hand for Cheryl Sawicki, the AV operator.
And Troy here.
I swear we weren't touching it, we weren't looking at it, we weren't.
That's when everything goes south.
It's all right. We got through it. Thank you, David. Thank you.
Where are we now? There we are.
No, you stay in there and I'll speak back.
Seventh inning stretch. At Point Angels, we do previews. We've seen a return presentation from a preview. We do our venture presentations, which we've done for almost 4 years. And then we also do these really cool update presentations to keep track of the folks who presented before and what they've been up to. And I ran into an old colleague, Derek Redding, at no, it was before that. It was at the it was an auto conference, innovation conference. And I also saw you at NEF.
Sorry.
It's all right. And Derek has been really single-minded about fascinating technology that posits the question: what if you could melt ice without using a blowtorch? Which is what a defroster is. And I was fascinated by this. He talked me through the technology, and I was geeking out for a while, but then it got over my pay grade. But the cool thing is that Derek has really taken, in just the last year since he was in front of this group in April of 22, some really great steps. And here to tell us about it is the founder and CEO of Betterfrost, Derek Redding.
Good evening, everyone. Let me just put this in. It's
oh, I forgot you had slides.
yes, it's great to be back. Terry Cross introduced me to Kurt Baumgartner a couple years ago, before the pandemic. We met somewhere in their offices near here, and then one of the first things he talked about was NEF. And when I came into this role, I convinced the co-founder before I came into the CEO role to enter NEF. And a couple weeks later, he said, "Derek, why don't you take over the CEO role? You have more experience in this, especially in automotive." And so I followed through that. And then right after that, I was invited to present at Point Angels. And so that was my first angel pitch after coming through NEF.
You were your first?
Yes.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yes. So so I have some history with this team. We are an Oakville, Ontario-based company. I'm also here with our CTO, Sammy Sad, who's sitting in the back. He's also a co-founder. And then Kai Farbach is one of our investors from Toyota 2 Show. We're here because this week is it's Automotive Festival time. It's SAE World Congress downtown. This is kind of like the Coachella or the Comic-Con for automotive engineers. Yes. So we had a call with Germany this morning at 8 o'clock, and then by 9 o'clock we were on the show floor at Huntington Place. And it's been a great. I'm going to start with.
I'm going to totally use that.
Oh no! Why? Okay. Really?
On the screen.
Okay.
Excellent.
All right. So I'm going to start with a video of what we do. This is our technology on the left, and we're going to defrost this in about 1 minute. Where most vehicles take 16 minutes, sometimes up to 25 minutes. Our best case, a European OEM, in their test center, they did it in 40 seconds. That's at minus 20 C, about 0 F. There's a 0.5 millimeter of ice that's is soaked onto the vehicle. So it's this is a standard test. All OEMs and tier ones do it the same way. And we're using about 20 times less energy than the HVAC system that's in cars today. So a few updates that we've accomplished in the last year. Oh, in our technology, what's really cool, physicists at the Dartmouth College of Engineering, they have an ice lab there. They developed a method of pulsing energy in ways so that you keep the heat right at the surface and it doesn't escape into the environment. And we're keeping it like within 1/10 of a millimeter of the surface, which is where the interfacial layer of the ice is. So we're only trying to melt that interfacial layer. It's pretty cool technology, and it uses 20 times less energy. Since last year, we at the World Congress last year, we won the GAMIC competition. Then at the Detroit Auto Show, we were the runner-up in the Plug and Play Auto Show Startup Competition. We won the NASA Tech Briefs Create the Future winner for automotive. And then just last month, we were the best technology winner at NAF. And Francis Gloria, sitting in the back, was one of our coaches there and was just fantastic. I can't say enough about Francis and we've been tested at multiple OEMs and tier ones. We've raised 1.9 million in paid development projects. These are going fantastic. We've had 2 patents granted. We filed 1 more. We're about to file another one. If any of you see some of the auto line after hours, we were profiled on that. I saw John McElroy yesterday at GAMIC, and we also were exhibiting at 3 of the key automotive trade shows, including CES. Project updates. There's 3 I want to talk about. One is with VW. We've developed a solution for the ID4. We had calls this morning and then again tomorrow with them. They are targeting their next global EV platform to incorporate our technology. Denso is the global tier 1. Just last month, they approved a 1.8 million joint development project on the new Toyota. It's their first EV, the BZ4X. We are going to put multiple technologies, not only to control heat to the windshield, but also the cameras, the LiDAR systems, side glass, and then we're also evaluating the outside heat exchanger and heat pumps. If any of you have a car, or if you came out of the South and had a heat pump, they'll start freezing up right around 0 C or about 32 F. And then PACCAR, we're talking to 2 groups. I expect that in the next 6 months, we will go to a trial of a paid development project with them. I did expect to come here and talk about closing an investment deal with Denso. However, last week their CEO changed, but it slowed things down a little bit. So I think this is going to take a few more weeks, but I'm still very confident. Their head of Denso Ventures was actually here from Silicon Valley yesterday. I met with him. Very good meeting with him. We are doing a 1.5 million convertible note. They want to take the entire round, but given the interest that we had from the angels, we will make that open once that is closed. Once that lead is closed, but we will take on follow-on investment for interested angels. So,
thank you very much. Now, you said you'd raised 1.9 million in development contracts. That sounds like revenue, not fundraising.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's not our NRE, not product revenue yet.
Got it. Sergio? I keep expecting him to leave. He just lives down the block. So we had another update lined up, but he's a doer. Who knows Todoly? One of the very first companies to ever pitch this group 4 years ago. And Sergio, one of our own, grew up in Grosse Pointe and launched his company right here with doers in his doer university that gave doers points for tasks completed and customer feedback. And the more they did and the better they did, the more they made. So this was a really compelling model. He's launching it in Houston as well as in Greater Detroit. And who had the Todoly story from Walled Lake? Was somebody in this room?
Lake, not Walled.
I'm sorry, I got the lake wrong. What lake, Luke?
Yeah,
Elizabeth Lake, thank you.
I hired him to come on out and help me do
We're going to give him the benefit of doubt and say the business is so good that he couldn't come. But Tuduli is giving great update. Thanks, Derek. As befits, we have a bunch of virtual updates. But I wanted to first talk about 2 events next month that are really the highlights of, like I said, this peak of the spring investor season, and that is the Midwest Growth Capital Symposium and the Renaissance VC's DEI Demo Day. Talk about Demo Day first. This is put on by Renaissance Venture, which is a fund of funds that manages Michigan taxpayer money as well as limited partners money. They put on an Undemo Day in the spring every year. An Undemo Day is like, it's the opposite of a demo day. If a demo day is like a dog and pony show where everybody gets up and does their little dance step and hopes that people throw money at them, this is an opportunity for the investors to pitch the ventures. It's an interesting model. I've met some really compelling ventures at Undemo Day, and then a couple of years ago, they pivoted to focus on underserved entrepreneurial communities. That's the DEI focus. So women, people of color, minorities, the folks who don't attract a lot of the mainstream angel dollars are now the focus of the Undemo Day. It's May 9th. It's virtual again this year, so you can participate from afar. There are portfolio previews from 2 of our very important partners. That's Invest Detroit and Michigan Rise. A number of our portfolio companies have co-investment from these 2 funds. So when they do a portfolio preview, we pay attention. There's also 2 rooms of live pitches. And this all happens from noon to 2 p.m. on May 9th. Go to the URL up here, which should be in your follow. It'll be in your survey. You're all going to get a survey after this. So that you can register for that. It's free. And then Midwest Growth Capital Symposium, that's May 22nd and 23rd at Ross. In Ann Arbor, that's live, that's in person. I can't really say enough about this. I mean, it was started by my mentor. It is the premier Midwest gathering of VCs and a few angels who like to rub elbows with them. 4 tracks: life science and healthcare, IT and software, mobility, clean tech, and agriculture. See what I said about hardware companies getting a short shrift? They're not even represented at Midwest. So this happens for a day and a half. The Michigan Venture Capital Association does its big luncheon right in the middle. Typically, we have Hal Davis, the exited entrepreneur and jazz guitar aficionado, providing the music. But the real benefit there is the hallway. I barely go to a session at Growth Capital. I just hang out in the hallway because I don't get to see these guys that often. We all do what we do. So that is visit midwestgcs.org. That's a couple $100 and worth it. It's May 22nd and 23rd.
That says the 23rd and 24th.
Then it's the 23rd and 24th. Nota Labs. Nota closed on an additional $1.5 million from Pegasus, bringing their total investment up to $4 million from Pegasus. I treat a corporate venture partner like that as a risk reducer for angels. They're investing at a level now that somebody's job is on the line if it tanks. So they're going to keep doubling down in order to protect that keister. This is what distinguishes the corporate venture capital world. Kurt, if you're watching, I'm talking about you, from the institutional venture capital world where you're keeping your LPs happy. Shareholders are a lot harder to keep happy than LPs. SciTech Development. Last quarter, we welcomed them into the Pointe Angel portfolio. They are oversubscribed in their convertible note round. That's how popular they were with this group and others. And they're onboarding their first 5 sites for their phase 1 clinical trials of nanofenretinide. That's the adjuvant for chemotherapeutic agent. Sniffer Robotics presented last month. They're fully funded. They're not taking any more investment. And then Tenera Grains, wow, they have a hit. Their new product, Tefola Bites, sold out its first production run faster than they had anticipated. It's popular with athletes and active people who want to get a lot of nutrition in a small package on the run. And they're onboarding new stores, including their first stores in California. So pretty excited about Tenera Grains. And then finally, Yolendo. They just keep showing up on my monthly slides. Where do I begin? They recruited an industry veteran to be their new VP of sales. They built a $2 million sales pipeline, of which a quarter are hot. And in June, they're going to learn if they're one of the UK Additive Manufacturing Award winners. That's the CTC award, TCT award here. And the inside track says that they're going to win $1 million right there. The CEO Brenda Jones is going to do a founder's fireside with Spark with my old buddy Bill Mayer next week, next Thursday. So if that's interesting to you, go to the Spark website, AnnArborUSA.org. And the events there, you can either go in person or virtual. She's also going to be featured in next month's New Enterprise Forum panel. That's May 18th in Ann Arbor, where they interview founders. But the best news on this slide is that Yolendo won its NSF Phase 2 commercialization award. That's $1 million in non-dilutive federal money, which is matched by $125,000 in state money, also non-dilutive. And investor dollars are, for the period of the grant, matched 1 to 2. So every dollar we get, they get another 50 cents from, well, us, because it's taxpayer. The validation that you get from an NSF Phase 2 is different than an NSF Phase 1. And I speak from my experience as being an NSF Phase 2 grant reviewer, that these are the awards that have commercial impact, as opposed to the Phase 1s, which are also great, but they don't have commercial impact as one of the exit criteria from Phase 1. Now, tomorrow you're going to get a little 2-minute survey from me to indicate your interest in all of the ventures that we've talked about today. And what I encourage you to do is take 2 minutes and just click a few boxes and send it back. That's how we know if we're doing well. That's how we know what kinds of companies to keep putting forth. And then I meant what I said. This is such a wonderful room. Look around at each other and the energy in this room. Remember, investors are herd animals. There's safety in numbers. Money flows where money flows. When we're big, we're going to do it well. And to that end, my favorite part of the meeting, the deal model. Will the investors who closed investments in March please join me at the podium? We are toasting the success of your ventures.
Probably cheaper just to buy bourbon.
Jim, remind us what this is.
Blanton's bourbon.
It's not a commercial. We actually like this.
Small batch. My favorite. Kind of rare.
There we go.
Thank you, sir. All right. Cheers. 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 Okay.
Want to know what it tastes like?
Did he say what the deal was? No.
I was gonna say.
Did you say what the deal was?
Oh, no, you tell us, Jim.
We invested in Inspired Solutions, which is a company developing a solution for solving PFAS, the forever chemicals that are out in the environment. So, a company that's doing good, and we hope will do well. They've got a razor blade business model where they sell machinery to water treatment facilities and locations, and then have an ongoing reagent that has to be supplied to the machines for the process to work. So
They got a big boost when the EPA said set higher, or actually lower, tolerance limits for PFAS mitigation. And all of the companies that are sucking PFAS out of their waste streams have nothing to do with it. It's like nuclear waste. It's a forever chemical. So if you can crack that,
It was great, and it's based on technology out of Michigan State
Mhm.
University, and like a lot of the opportunities we've seen come through this, we've had a lot of companies come born out of University of Michigan as well. So the universities are doing a lot to drive the Angel community here, and we're beneficiaries of it.
The other company represented here is Redless, that presented to us last year. And I want to just set an expectation with the founders that money doesn't flow the moment that you stop presenting. There's this whole process that goes forward, and that's part of why we do these surveys, to gauge interest, to build a diligence team, to kick the tires, to negotiate terms. All of that takes time. And in the case of Breadless, we had a good long time to look at Breadless and why, what was the investment thesis before investment was made. But we're happy to welcome them to the Pointe Angels portfolio.